Coming up on Ag Week TV, despite a slow start, crops around the region are catching up. We'll take a look on our cereals crop tour. A North Dakota beef processor is expanding with a big boost from the state. A Minnesota farmer is taking the reins of an international sugar association. And we'll check back in with the young northern North Dakota potato grower we're following this season. Welcome to Ag Week TV. I'm Emily Beal. A North Dakota ethanol plant is the first in the nation to capture and store CO2 emissions underground. The Red Trail Energy plant in Richardson will capture about 500 metric tons of carbon dioxide every day. It's produced by fermenting corn to make fuel. The company started capturing carbon in mid-June. Red Trail is approved to capture 180,000 metric tons of the greenhouse gas. It's stored more than a mile underground. The company's ability to capture and store 100% of its carbon emissions makes it eligible for lucrative carbon credits. Yellowstone River Beef in Williston, North Dakota is expanding its plant to keep up with increasing demand, with help from a big state grant. The company processes beef from cattle bought at ranches in the Dakotas and Montana. It ships about 70% of its production to Asian and Middle East countries. CEO Trevor Abel and two partners bought the plant from a local beef processor in 2019. The North Dakota Ag Department awarded Yellowstone River Beef $250,000 to expand processing capacity and upgrade the building. Abel says it should help them increase exports.
We really wanted to kind of niche ourselves in something different. And I think as far as exporting beef goes, we're right there at the top with our products. And you know, again, we're going to continue to grow that as we expand.
The expansion is expected to be done this fall with an additional 10,000 feet of processing space. They hope to expand from 20 full-time employees to at least 50. With the warm weather throughout the Upper Plains, how's that affecting small grains in our region? In this week's Ag Week cover story, we continue our Ag Week cereals crop tour, where I made a stop in Castleton in eastern North Dakota. I'm with Claire Keene, NDSU Extension Agronomist, and do you want to go ahead and tell me a little bit about the field we're currently standing in?
Sure. We are in a field of ND Heron spring wheat, the newest ND spring wheat variety to be released.
So we've been having some excessive heat here in the region. How has that helped the growing process along?
A lot of farmers I've spoken with are really surprised that despite the late planting, the crop maturity has really just sped right along. And I chalk that up to some very hot temperatures, late May, early June, and the crop just really getting pushed. And we see that here. This crop looks pretty good. But things are perhaps just a little bit accelerated, so the plant didn't have as much time to do photosynthesis and put on as much vegetative growth as we'd like to see with those hot temps. So I'm thinking that yields will be average. Some folks might get a little bit above or a little below, but overall, pretty good.
So as you've been going out and talking to producers, are there any diseases that they are particularly worried about?
We've seen a lot of bacterial leaf streak. We don't have any good chemical control options for that, but it is one that in places where we've had those high winds, shredding leaves, and then persistent wet weather, seeing some bacterial leaf streak.
So we hopped on over to a winter wheat field, which is significantly less popular in the region. Do you want to go ahead and tell me about that?
Sure. So in North Dakota, we're definitely a spring wheat state. We typically have somewhere in the 5 to 6 million acres a year of spring wheat. But winter wheat, we're usually less than 1 million acres, sometimes substantially less than that.
Has there been any growing interest in winter wheat with producers?
The Agronomy Seed Farm has been getting calls for winter wheat now, which is unusual. Usually it's in a few weeks, if not a month from now, that people are thinking about it. So yes, I do think there is interest out there, primarily in the eastern part of the state from those prevent plant acres.
Thanks, Claire. Claire Keene, NDSU Extension Agronomist. Our cereals crop tour also stopped in northwest Minnesota near Crookston, where the spring wheat is looking fairly solid.
There's a lot of good-looking wheat this year.
Agronomist Noel Anderson says that most of the area he covers in northeast North Dakota and northwest Minnesota is looking at average to above average yields despite the cold, wet spring that pushed back planting about 3 weeks.
It was a little surprising. I don't think anybody really knew what to expect with the late planting conditions. A lot of this wheat wasn't planted until the end of May, which isn't unheard of. It's just we weren't really sure what to expect going into this year. So I think it's a pleasant surprise for a lot of people.
Anderson is expecting this field to be harvested in late August, about 3 weeks later than normal.
But what is normal. We don't typically have normal conditions, so August 25th is a little bit later, but it's not absolutely unheard of.
Anderson says they've had pretty good rains through the season. He says the hot weather will help the crops catch up, but the hot, humid weather is also right for Fusarium head blight, so he recommends spraying fungicide, and he says they're seeing a few grasshoppers. He's estimating yields of 60 to 80 bushels an acre. Some growers did have challenges, including heavy rains, hail, and strong windstorms, but Anderson says most fared okay. And he says it's certainly better than last year's drought.
Some things are maybe a little bit farther behind than what we're used to at this time of year, but overall we're looking pretty good.
Last year, the drought cut yields in northwest Minnesota spring wheat to 30 to 50 bushels an acre.
The Ag Week Cereals Crop Tour is sponsored by Hefty Seed Company of Wilton and Herdsfield, North Dakota, Corteva Agriscience, and Mosaic.
Coming up on Ag Week TV, we'll take you to northeastern North Dakota to see the midsummer bloom of potatoes.
The boots are polished, and the bows are rosined. Voices are warmed, and the hats are donned. The stage is ready. So are we. We do this every night, just for you. The Medora Musical. Explore it, adore it, Medora.
All right, here's the free gift I got for opening up a checking account. Let's see what I got.
Okay guys, so I got this portable DVD player.
Yeah, I'm not sure why my bank would give me a tiny waffle maker.
So it's a tumbler, but it doesn't fit in any of my cup holders.
I wasn't even sure they still made these.
Is it for kids? Is this for kids?
Don't fall for the free gift. Find a bank that cares about what you really need. Cornerstone Bank.
Small or large, Superior Grain Equipment has the storage, conditioning, and handling equipment to fit any size operation with a wide variety of options and accessories, including our patented Blockbuster auger to help break up blockages over the center sump gate, and a full line of mixed flow grain dryers with even heating, excellent efficiency, and expandable capacities. Protect your investment and market your grain. Get superior quality, protection, and reliability with Superior Grain Equipment.
Dynaflow is the ultimate high-volume water management pump. Whether you're experiencing flooding, emptying sloughs, transferring ponds, or working on irrigation, the Dynaflow pump works in as little as 18 inches of water and is designed to move 3,000 gallons per minute. The Dynaflow lift pump is the perfect upgrade to your drain tile system. Using line shaft turbine pump technology, these pumps are made to last while operating efficiently. Dynaflow drain tile pumps can move up to 1,500 gallons per minute, up to 3,400 feet away.
You can get the field results you want in varying conditions with the flexibility of the Summers VRT Renegade. Featuring on-the-fly blade angle adjustment from 0 to 19 degrees. And if you want the simplicity of a super coulter with the ability to move a little dirt, you'll love the all-new Summers Super Coulter Samurai. Go to summersmfg.com or visit your local dealer to learn more about North America's broadest line of tillage equipment and other products from North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing.
Ag Week TV Soy Insight, brought to you by the North Dakota Soybean Council.
After a late start with planting, the soybean crop is catching up. But now it's time for growers to start watching for pests. Rose Dunn talked with an entomologist who says grasshoppers are starting to show up.
Joining me is NDSU professor and extension entomologist Janet Knodel. Janet, with our cool, wet, late planting start this last spring, things are starting to catch up now, which is good news, but the bad news maybe is that we're starting to see a few pests in the field.
Yes, we've had a lot of grasshoppers, and it's primarily due to the weather that we've had the last few years. We were in a severe drought, and grasshopper populations are closely tied to the weather. And there's adequate moisture for the crop to grow, so there's plenty of food for them. So we're seeing a lot of grasshoppers in soybeans and other field crops this year.
What do growers need to be doing right now?
The most important thing is to get out and scout your fields to see if they're at the economic threshold levels. You can do that by visually estimating the number of grasshoppers per square yard, or you can use a sweep net, which 4 sweeps, pendulum sweeps, is equivalent to a square yard.
So if you find a significant grasshopper population, what's the next step?
Well, then you'll need to get an insecticide out into the field. There's several in soybean that you can select from. A new mode of action called the diamine Vantacor, which is the one that I'm highly recommending this year because we need to preserve our pyrethroid insecticides for other insects that might be occurring later in the season in soybean.
Tell me a little bit more about how Vantacor works.
We're quite excited to have a new chemistry available for control of grasshoppers and Lepidoptera insect pests like green clover worm. It's very effective. It has a little bit longer residual, 2 to 3 weeks compared to a pyrethroid, and it also is a little bit more friendly to the beneficial insects that are out in the field.
All right, thanks for all that important information. Janet Knodel, NDSU Extension entomologist.
For more information, you can go to the website on your screen. An East Grand Forks, Minnesota farmer is the new leader of an international sugar group. David Thompson is the newly elected president of the World Association of Beet and Cane Growers. Thompson is a third-generation beet grower, and his father, Dean, was one of the farmers who started American Crystal in 1973. Thompson says the association meets to exchange ideas on educating people about sugar production, environmental practices, and expanding its use.
You know, we're always looking for alternative uses for sugar, alternative uses for our byproducts, you know, the pulp, the molasses. Over in Europe, they use a lot of their pulp and the byproducts at producing energy. We're always looking for different ways for uses of the actual sugar or the byproducts so that we're not wasting a thing.
The organization is made up of 36 cane and sugar beet growers associations from 34 different countries. Reps from those countries will be coming to Fargo in 2024 for the World Convention. Again this year, we're following several farmers through the growing season. After a slow start this spring, things are looking good on the Shepherd Farm in northeast North Dakota, where Katie Pinky found the potato fields in full bloom.
We're checking back in on our Follow a Farmer series with Thomas Shepherd of Crystal, North Dakota.
This is probably my favorite time of year as a farmer. It's just beautiful around with the potatoes. Some people have come out in the summertime and they think maybe we grow flowers because they just look so beautiful. There's 10 underneath that one. Everything's looking good. The potatoes, wheat, corn, soybeans, and edible beans around here. We're probably only a few weeks away from wheat harvest.
Share a little bit about disease pressure you're seeing in your potatoes this time of year and how you're addressing it.
So here on our farm, we take disease pressure on potatoes really serious. It's something that if you don't keep your eye on it, it could really be a detriment or wipe out your crop. So what we do is we're constantly watching our potatoes for late blight and spraying them up to weekly come this time of year, just so we can keep them as in the best shape we can until harvest rolls around.
I would think they would be a great set under here because they've been pretty moist.
Shepherd farms alongside his dad, Lyle. I
haven't taught Thomas a lot of things. He's really surprising me. He understands a lot of stuff better than I do, and it's great to have him back. This is a variety called Dakota Pearls that really set heavy.
When potatoes are flowering, our goal is row closure. We don't want to be able to see any dirt in between the potatoes. We just want to see a field of flowers. That's a good chance that there's going to be quite a good yield and a good crop in that field.
For Ag Week TV near Crystal, North Dakota, this is Katie Pinky.
Katie will check back in at the Shepherd Farm in mid-September for potato harvest. Coming up, we'll show you how a farm family got this gazebo on top of a silo as we pull another of our favorites from the Ag Week vault.
I am Kevin Johnson, president of Gateway Building Systems. I started with Gateway back in 1974 on the construction side. The next year went into the office and sales, and in 1977 became part owner. We've got a great team of salespeople, designers, project managers. The key to Gateway is our people. Our customers appreciate the quality and reliability.
Systems way. Good work, good pay, in a good life, lets me live my way. Good work, good pay, in a good life, Trans Systems way. Good work, good pay, in a good life, lets me live my way. It's the Trans Systems way. Good
Every season has an end. After spending your whole life building something, it can be hard to move on to your next stage in life. But when that time comes, you deserve to have someone you trust guide you through the process. And by trusting us to pass on your legacy, it gives someone else the chance to create their own. Every auction has a story. Let us share yours.
For over 130 years, Farmers Mutual of Nebraska has been providing protection from the unexpected. Farmers and ranchers choose Farmers Mutual insurance coverage for their industry experience, prompt claim service, and unmatched financial strength. Experience an insurance plan that's customized for your operation. Visit fmne.com to contact an agent for a quote today. Farmers Mutual of Nebraska, always alongside you.
Go beyond the headlines with an Ag Week membership. Get in-depth agribusiness reporting, original farm and ranch stories, and fact-based research for the most comprehensive ag news in the upper Midwest. Experienced ag journalists bring you exclusive ag news, insights, and policy updates you won't find anywhere else. Become a member today and get unlimited access to Ag Week and Ag Week TV.
Growing conditions in our region have stayed favorable, but what about the rest of the U.S.? Here's Jared with our AgriWeather Outlook.
I'm Storm Tracker meteorologist Jared Piepenberg with the general outlook here as we head over the next couple of weeks and continue throughout July. We're going to be checking on an upper level ridge, what that'll mean for the lower 48. We'll have the heat and we'll end up having some stormy weather in the week to come here and over the next couple of weeks as well, which is kind of shaping up to be in the central portion of the U.S. I'll pinpoint that for you coming up here. We'll take a look at the drought monitor in North Dakota. Special feature with that coming up. All right, our upper level flow. So we're jumping way up in the atmosphere here. The heat dome in place for the lower 48 here, mainly in the southern states, down near Texas and down in the southeast. Things change up slightly as we head throughout this work week. Eventually, the ridge starts to build across the west coast. That's going to keep the heat in place across the west and still across the southeast. Low pressure systems will travel over the ridge, kind of ridge riders there, drop down through parts of the northern plains, upper Midwest, over the Great Lakes. Precipitation looks like it'll be kind of between this area with that dip and that hot weather. Up here in the northern plains, we may see some chances of some showers and storms along the way. As we head toward the later part of this week, that ridge will slowly translate eastwards. We may have a little hotter weather for the northern plains, upper Midwest as we close out the week, and worth watching for those changes coming up here. So let's talk precipitation. As that ridge starts to build over the west coast, the Pacific Northwest may end up having a little drier weather, but looks like low pressure systems will build in the central plains. We'll get some Gulf moisture coming off the Gulf there with the high pressure system in place, meaning they'll have this southerly wind coming off the Gulf, meets up with those lows that drop out of that ridge and producing some of that wet weather across the central part of the lower 48 there. Temperature-wise, we may just stay a little below average across the northern plains, including the Dakotas, parts of Minnesota, with that heat in place across the Pacific Northwest from San Francisco, Las Vegas, Portland, Vancouver, and then some hot weather down in Texas and off toward the eastern seaboard. A little closer to home here to check that out. We may end up just being a little bit cooler up here. We've had a lot of rain recently. Kind of much needed. Definitely noticed that in my lawn. Last 14 days, we've had some areas that inch to 2 to 3 to maybe even more near the international border. We've just had a lot of rain in parts of the Dakota, especially North Dakota and northern half of Minnesota. And with that in mind, with the drought monitor, North Dakota, no drought to be talked about here. Just a little bit down toward the Twin Cities and up into Wisconsin and parts of South Dakota. Otherwise, that's kind of where the closest dry conditions are at right now due to the drought monitor. Precipitation outlook as we head toward next week, looking a little below average for parts of the Dakotas. Again, similar setup with low pressure systems kind of developing in parts of the plains. Wet weather there from Dallas, Wichita, up toward Washington and New York. Just kind of in the central portion, the lower 48, where we'll end up being a little drier here. But next week looks like some of that heat will nose into our area, so expect some warmer weather here as we continue to the end of July.
It's summertime, and that means it's time for Farm Fest. Join us for more of what you love, August 2nd through the 4th. Farm Fest brings you more demonstrations, family entertainment, food vendors, and exhibits. Take in the FarmFest forums and visit the seed plots. Ride and drive demonstrations and new networking lounge with live music and refreshments. See for yourself at FarmFest, August 2nd through the 4th. For tickets, visit farmfest.com. Network, learn, grow, and experience more at FarmFest.
Every season has an end. After spending your whole life building something, it can be hard to move on to your next stage in life. But when that time comes, you deserve to have someone you trust guide you through the process. And by trusting us to pass on your legacy, it gives someone else the chance to create their own. Every auction has a story. Let us share yours.
Small or large, Superior Grain Equipment has the storage, conditioning, and handling equipment to fit any size operation, with a wide variety of options and accessories, including our patented Blockbuster auger to help break up blockages over the center sump gate, and a full line of mixed flow grain dryers with even heating, excellent efficiency, and expandable capacities. Protect your investment and market your grain. Get superior quality, protection, and reliability with Superior Grain Equipment.
Since the inception of Vatterstadt, the spirit of innovation has led the company. We push the limits, providing innovative and reliable seeding and tillage solutions that simplify everyday life for farmers. We continue to reimagine the capabilities and technology behind farm machinery, providing customers with a perfect emergence while maximizing their yields. We look forward to growing together.
It's going to be an interesting year in agriculture. We have already seen the markets trade to new crop highs and levels not seen in years. There is uncertainty around the 2022 growing season. Will drought impact production? How many acres will be switched? And will demand remain strong? Are you getting the information you need to make the right marketing decisions? With the changing market environment, maybe it's time to change how you approach your grain marketing. Let Martinson Ag Risk Management get you the news that matters and a marketing plan that suits your needs.
A few miles north of Morris, Minnesota, on Highway 59, there's an unusual sight. A gazebo sits high on top of an old silo. In this week's story from the Ag Week Vault, Rose Dunn shows you how it got up there.
Like many of the world's best and sometimes worst ideas, it all started with a bar bet. But 5 years and tons of steel later, there was a gazebo on top of this old silo.
Well, it was on a $100 bet that he couldn't do it. Of course, there was no blueprints or nothing written down on paper. He just knew how to do that kind of thing.
Artist Lesmeister's husband Jack and their sons started building this gazebo in the late 80s after the barn next to it burned down. Much of the gazebo was built on the ground. In 1993, it was perched on top of the silo with a 75-ton crane. Windows, wood trim, and railings were added once it was in place. Oh, it's nice and sunny up here.
There we are.
Jack's son Lane was a young teen at the time.
I would have to say probably the most daunting thing was hanging upside down to weld a lot of the seams. There was just no way to get at the angle.
In addition to farming, the Lesmeisters are in the steel business, so they were able to keep costs down. Still, they estimate it was about $40,000 to build and install. Lane estimates there are 15 to 20 tons of steel in the structure, much of it recycled I-beams from bridges around the area. Holding it up inside the silo are 4 50-foot beams sunk into 8 feet of concrete. Jack passed away about 3 years ago, but he remains an important presence in the gazebo.
Yeah, whenever I have a tough day or something, I come up and plunk down in Dad's chair and ask him.
The family finds the gazebo a peaceful place to relax and enjoy the 8-mile view. Near Morris, Minnesota, this is Rose Dunn for Ag Week.
Lane says it's a 3-season gazebo, so they shut it down for the winter. Still ahead, we'll visit a dairy farm that's the cream of the crop.
Summer ain't summer without the North Dakota State Fair. And this year's grandstand lineup is sizzling hot. Cody Johnson, LV Shane, Will Bannister, Old Dominion, and Sam Hunt. Head to ndstatefair.com for tickets and more. The North Dakota State Fair, July 22nd through the 30th. Now it's really summer.
Don't miss out on the equipment you'll need next season. Titan Machinery, your local Case IH dealer, has early order discounts on its full line of powerful, efficient, new Case IH equipment, including tractors, combines, and self-propelled sprayers. Get a great deal and ensure that you have the latest in productivity and technology. Supply chains are tight. Contact your Titan Machinery dealership today and find out how much you can save by ordering ahead. Titan Machinery, your local Case IH equipment experts.
It's summertime, and that means it's time for Farm Fest. Join us for more of what you love, August 2nd through the 4th. Farm Fest brings you more demonstrations, family entertainment, food vendors, and exhibits. Take in the Farm Fest forums and visit the seed plots, ride and drive demonstrations, and new networking lounge with live music and refreshments. See for yourself at Farm Fest, August 2nd through the 4th. For tickets, visit farmfest.com. Network, learn, grow, and experience more at Farm Fest.
Attention farmers and farming communities. The herbicide paraquat has been linked to Parkinson's disease. Paraquat, also known as gramoxone, is still being used in the U.S. on corn, soy, and wheat crops and puts farm workers in danger. Producers across the country have filed lawsuits claiming that paraquat caused their Parkinson's disease and that the manufacturer failed to warn about the chemical's risk of neurological damage. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with Parkinson's after direct or indirect exposure to paraquat, call or visit solberglaw.com.
For Ag Week, this is Mikkel Pates at Watertown, South Dakota.
We'll look at the positive impacts that dairy can have on the community.
A Minnesota couple has put a grain bin to a new use. Spoiler alert, it's not grain.
This elaborate system of tubing with the downhill slope is how Maplewood State Park gathers sap to make syrup.
Thanks for watching Ag Week TV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. A southeast Minnesota dairy farm now has the honor of being the state's top dairy producer. The Minnesota Milk Producers Association chose Johnson's Rolling Acres Farm in Fillmore County as the Producer of the Year. A celebration of the honor was recently held on their farm. It's a multi-generational family farm operated by 6 partners. Minnesota Milk says the award recognizes an operations leadership in the dairy industry and commitment to future generations. The diversified farm was started in 1979. They milk 1,200 cows, finish 10,000 pigs a year, and have 3,500 acres of cropland.
And so we strive to do the best that we possibly can do, because if we don't take care of the land isn't going to take care of us. And without it, it's kind of hard to do what we do.
This is for us to showcase what dairy is and can be, a time to slow down and just say, hey, thank you for what you've done for our community. You're a great role model, and we'd let others to be like you.
Award winners receive a scholarship for educational programming, as well as a framed art print. Stories you'll only see on agweek.com and an Ag Week magazine this week. A planned soybean crushing plant in northwest Minnesota has gotten a favorable ruling on its potential environmental impact. And demonstrations, political forums, and a new networking lounge are on tap for the annual Farm Fest Ag Show in Minnesota. We appreciate you watching Ag Week TV. Remember to check us out daily on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to keep up on all your ag news. Have a great week.